Hey, do you ever wonder how long you should keep your prepped food and keep your other food that you buy at the grocery store before you toss it out? I hate wasting food. So, if that's you, stay tuned for today's video because I'm going to give you some simple tips on how long to keep your food prepped before you toss it in the trash and have to waste it. Hey, I'm Randy Hartz with Complete Fitness, where we help busy men and women in the Sioux Falls area gain energy, gain strength, and add more life to your years. Now, we've been talking a lot about food prep. Obviously, if you followed some of the tips that we gave you in the last few weeks here, you've been making extra meals and you've been saving those in the fridge. So basically, you're doubling and tripling the chicken or the meat or whatever it is that you're cooking, so it makes it a lot easier to food prep. Now, if you're somebody that food preps on Sunday and preps it for the whole week, obviously you can't just refrigerate the meals. You've got to actually use the freezer as well. Now, here's what the FDA says about cooking and storing meals in the refrigerator. It says basically between 1 and 2 hours after you make that meal, you want to put it in the refrigerator. And then if you do that, you can save it for up to 3, sometimes 4 days, depending on what the foods are and so forth. So again, a good rule of thumb is 3 to 4 days. If it's going to be anything longer than that, then you want to take and throw it in your freezer. And here's another tip. After you cook your meal, don't take it right from blazing hot to throwing it into the deep freeze. Put it in the refrigerator first for maybe an hour or two, and then throw it in the freezer, because then it won't freeze with crystals and so forth. If it gets those crystals on there, when you go ahead and microwave it and heat that food up, what happens is the food gets really mushy and then it's pretty gross. And so rule of thumb is for the deep freeze, really foods can be frozen technically forever before you eat them. There's not going to have any bacteria and so forth on it. But good rule of thumb, a month or two in the deep freeze, otherwise longer than that, and it starts to lose the nutrition profile and it starts to not taste as well either. Let's look at a couple other foods. So I've got some hamburger here. We actually just cooked these last night, so they're good for like 3 days or so. Obviously things like eggs, cottage cheese, they've got right on the label when the expiration date is. Like it says sell by May 12th on that, and then you've got a few days after that. This cottage cheese actually says best by May 9th. So what do? I do the sight test and the smell test, which is probably not the best rule of thumb. But again, I hate wasting food, so I would rather, again, you got to use just some good judgment and so forth. Things like yogurt, it's going to have dates on there. One thing I noticed is we probably don't do as good a job as we should rotating food. So when you buy food at the grocery store, you should pull the stuff that's closer to expiration to the front and put the new stuff into the back. And then obviously you've got, like your fruits and vegetables, and they don't have a very long shelf life, which is a good thing. The packaged stuff that sits in the pantry, obviously that can sit there forever, but usually the food quality is not as good. Where the fruits and the vegetables and the closer it is to natural, it's not going to last as long, which can get frustrating. You'll see me a lot of times, I'll have some weird food combinations because I hate throwing food out. So I might be eating 2 or 3 ounces of chicken because that's what's left over, with a little bit of maybe hamburger, some sort of veggies and various rice, different things like that. So instead of throwing it out, I'll have 1 or 2 days a week where I'm just eating some totally random stuff put together. So again, good rule of thumb as far as food prep goes is 3 days in the fridge. If it's going to be anything longer than that, throw it in the freezer. So that will help you save some money and not have to waste food. So hopefully that added value to you. Give me a thumbs up if it did. And we will see you in the gym.